Hi, welcome to Ruminate on This, small bits of information from AMTS, the Nutritionist webinars. Daniel Scothorn acts as a dairy nutritional advisor for clients both in Canada and globally. In this next clip, he explains the 5 questions he asks his clients when he meets with them.
The other thing is that we are really working on these methods of taking a client-centered approach rather than a guru or I should say like a coach-centered approach. So what I mean by that is, I don't want these words to be, my wife told me not to use any big words because first of all, I can't probably pronounce them myself. So what I mean is that by taking a client-centered approach, it's the focus is on the client. It's having open ears and an open mind. And listen to what that client says. So I think now, number one, this takes a lot of time to practice this approach. And it takes a lot of time. You can't just drop into a farm for 5 minutes and really master that client-centered approach. We have one of the posts that I did on LinkedIn about 3 months, or probably maybe even 6 months ago now, was called the 5 questions every dairy advisor should ask their elite clients. Except I was reminded by somebody that's probably elite shouldn't be in there. It should be any client, obviously. Every client's equally important. So every client should be considered the same way and ask these questions. So in other words, now, and do I practice this all the time? No, I mean, it takes a lot of time. Obviously, if we don't have a lot of time, you just focus on a few of these questions. But the bottom line is when you step on farm is to ask that client, what's important to you today? You have no idea as a coach or an advisor stepping onto that farm as to what's important today to that farm necessarily. You may have had some texting back and forth on maybe the cows are just low on milk today, or we're getting a lot of milk fevers. But really, at the end of the day, it's important to really have a common understanding as to what's important. The second thing you could say is, before I walk through your herd, is there anything I should pay special attention to? And that just goes back to not assuming anything, get the client's perspective. And then the third thing we could say is, here's my plan today. I'm going to walk through these dry cows, look at their manure, their condition, their well-being. Are you able to set aside 20 minutes to review things at the end of my visit after I walk through these cattle? And that gets what that allows is follow up. You can share what you see as a coach or consultant. So, and then the fourth thing you could say is, the last time we met, you said there were problems with milk fever. Is this still a challenge lately? So reviewing the past is really important, because honestly, a lot of things I learn as a coach is based on what producers go through, the experiences they have, and a lot can be learned from that. And then the fifth thing is, this is one question I think should be asked quite frequently, is let's review your current feed cost. You're spending this much on these additives, you're spending this much on this corn, the haylage and corn silage is costing this much in your diet, and this is the breakdown on a pie chart as to what your costs look like. What do you think about that? You hired me to help you with feed cost reduction in many cases, or in mitigation of feed costs, and I think a conversation around that is important every time. So I think if you, obviously, Essie, you worked in the feed industry for a very long time. I think if you let those visits, those farm calls get complacent, then there won't be much change. I think if you ask these key questions and keep the client's perspective and focus, then that's how you're going to have a really good relationship for many years, if not decades.
Every nutritional advisor approaches their job differently. We hope you give some thought to the 5 questions Daniel laid out in your next farm visit. These shorts are brought to you by AMTS, Agricultural Modeling and Training Systems. For more information on this and any other webinar, email webinars@agmodelsystems.com.